Every day, hundreds of new government tenders go live online, but most small businesses either don't see them at all or waste hours manually sifting through loads of irrelevant ones. I'm going to show you a Make.com workflow that automatically finds the most lucrative tenders that are relevant to your niche and suitable for small businesses, filters out the noise, and then delivers them straight to your inbox. I'm Samantha, and I've used AI automations like this one to help generate leads worth over $27,000 each. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how this system works so you can see how it's done and build it for yourself with the free template. I actually got inspired to build this one after watching the film War Dogs. But don't worry, these are for AI-related opportunities, nothing to do with guns or ammo. All right, let's get started. So first off, I'm just going to run through a demo of this and show you how everything works. This is how it looks in Make.com. And to start with, we have an HTTP request module, which goes to the Contracts Finder website here from the UK government, and it actually grabs all of the latest requests up to, I think, the latest 25 at the moment, then iterates over all of those. Then it puts together the full URL, which is important because we need to be able to retrieve each individual notice. If there's one that's interesting to us, we need to be able to click in and have a look at it. This is the important part. So the AI stage here is set up to actually identify which tenders are relevant to our niche. We're asking it to look for ones related to AI, automation, machine learning, chatbot, or keywords related to those topics. Basically, its job is to decide if this tender is relevant to us. And we've got some rules here, especially to reject the tender if the word is used in an unrelated way. Like when I was testing this, we had one that was taking AI as part of an acronym that was totally unrelated to artificial intelligence. So we want it to help us to filter those. Okay, and then after that, we have a filter set up here, and then we store the tender information in an Airtable database. And finally, we send an email to ourselves to tell us that there are new tenders ready to review. So I'm just going to hit run once and we'll just see it in action. So let's go. We've got it set up to take the first 25. So it's going to get quite a few here. We should end up with 25 results coming out of the AI module here. And as you can see, ChatGPT is doing quite a lot of work here in identifying the tenders out of the 25. Okay, so finally, here we are, and it's analyzed 25 results here. It's constructed 25 full URLs for each notice, and it's run that through a filter step, and only one of them has made it through. So only one of them was deemed relevant, and that has been stored in our Airtable database. And finally, we've received an email notifying us. So let's take a look. Here it is, latest automation tenders UK. Okay, and that just kind of gives me a heads up, and I can click into here and it will take me to our Airtable where we can see the latest tender, which is, so here it is. It's got the notice ID. It's got the title of the tender for a digital asset management system. Then it's got the description. So this is an algorithm-based retrieval system for a museum. So it's inviting software vendors to tender for this. I'm not sure it would be something I would go for, but it definitely fits the bill from the criteria that we gave to ChatGPT. So I feel that in this way, the system has done its job. What I noticed when I was building this was that there wasn't a ton of suitable tenders showing up on the website anyway, probably because this is still a new and evolving niche. But this system would be able to catch most of the ones that could be of interest to us. Then it's got the organization name, the date published, and the closing date for the tender in case we wanted to go for it, the status of the notice, and the region, which it somehow hasn't picked up. We did set up the value, but that doesn't seem to have come through. And then, importantly, we have this URL, which takes us to the original notice, and whether or not it's suitable for SMEs, which is important because that's what we are. So let's just click on this. It will take us to the website, the government.gov.uk website, and that gives us the full information about that tender in case we want to go for it. So that's how it works. And now I'm going to start from scratch. Let's jump into a blank canvas of make.com and let's build this from scratch. So I'm going to click create scenario, and we are going to start with an HTTP request to the gov.uk contracts finder website. So we need to click HTTP and then select make a request, and this will pop up. Now the URL, we have it right here on our notes. So So here it is. We found this in the API documentation here. Here's the page. So this is all the different API documentation, all the endpoints that you can find. And we are using one called Search API. And here you can see it's the same as what we're going to use in Make right now. So I paste this URL in, and then we're going to select Post. And we're going to add a header for the name. We're going to put content type and the value application JSON. That tells it that we're using JSON here. And then body type is raw and the content type will be JSON. And then the last thing we need is the request content. So this will be a JSON string to tell it exactly which fields we need to pull from the website via the API. So I've got that here. We're going to keep it really simple and we're going to use this. And we're just looking for contract types that are still open, starting at £10,000 and going up to £200,000. And very importantly, we need to make sure that suitable for SME is set to true. And we'll also look for regions of the UK, and the size of the query will be 25 results. So we can change this number, we can change any of this, but we're going to keep it simple just to start with. So I'm going to paste that in request content. There we go. And pass response, yes, because that will enable us to pass the JSON response. So we click save, save the whole scenario here, just in case. There we go. Click save. Okay, so let's run this now and see what happens. Okay, so it seems to have worked. Okay, this is what we want, notice list. Okay, sometimes you have to dig in a bit to find the right data. This is it. So yeah, as you can see, it's already brought back 25 different notices, all in different collections here. So if we click in, let's see what we've got in here. Yep, we've got everything we need here, title, description, extended description, publication date, loads of other fields, all of which we could include in our query if we wanted, but we're just keeping it very simple for now. So you might notice that this has nothing to do with AI and automation at the moment. What we're going to do later on is we're going to use an AI module to query and filter the results that we get to make sure that these are excluded. But to keep this simple, we're just going to pull the latest 25 results for now, and then we'll deal with them later on using AI. So this is working. Let's move on to the next step now. So the next thing we need to do is an iterator module, which can go over each of those tenders one by one and use them for the next stage of the processing. So I'm going to click here and we're going to look for our iterator is right here. Okay, and then now we need to enter the array that we pulled via the API in the previous module, so we can tell the iterator what it needs to work on. As you can see in data here, we have notice list, which contains all of our items. So I'm going to click notice list, and you see these brackets here mean that it's an array, which is a group of different items, and that's usually the data that we need to focus on. I'm going to click notice list here and click save. That's done. We'll save the whole thing right now. And then another important aspect is actually saving the URL of the original notice itself. So here on the website, this is what an individual tender notice looks like. This is for grass cutting, totally irrelevant. But what's important is this URL at the top. And this part, especially highlighted in yellow, is the unique ID for this specific page. Because the information we get from the API does not include the original URL for that notice, we need to construct that ourselves so that we can put it into our Airtable to use later. Because if there's a tender we want to go for, it's going to be important to easily find the original notice. So what we're going to do here is set a variable. And we're going to call it notice URL. Okay, and then the value is going to be this part of the URL, because this part never changes. Okay, make sure we don't get any of that stuff in. Just go all the way to the slash so you can get it. Put that in there with the slash after it. And then we need to find the ID of that notice. We need item ID, right? Let's see if we can find that. There we go. Okay, so that has now built the URL and saved it in a variable with the name notice URL. So when we come to add all the data to our Airtable, we can feed this in. So we've got access immediately to the original page of that tender. Let's click save. Okay, now we've got everything we need. And the next step is to add the ChatGPT module to actually filter all of those tenders, find the ones that are relevant to our niche. So I'm going to go to OpenAI and I'm going to create a completion. This basically means create a new prompt. And I'm going to select ChatGPT 5 Mini, which I found is a good balance between fast and intelligent. We're going to keep the max completion tokens at, I think, the standard here. I think that should be okay because the notices are not huge. Well, maybe we'll go up to 4,000 just in case there's a lot of notices to deal with. So first of all, we need to set the system role. So I've already got this stored here. And this is basically instructing the AI, telling it what its role is going to be. So for this one, it's an intelligent analyst specializing in locating government tender opportunities. Now we've got our keywords here. Okay, then next up, we need to add another message, and we give it the role of the user. And this is where we put our main prompt, telling it exactly what it needs to do. So this is the prompt. I'm going to paste it in here. And as you can see, it's got the information from the tender here that came through all the way from the first module, gives it the task, and it gives it the rules. So basically, it accepts only if the tender is about any of these relevant topics, rejects it if it's anything else, but it also rejects it if it's using one of the above words in unrelated ways, like learning or AI as part of an acronym that's not related actually to artificial intelligence. I've seen a few of these around. And its task is, after doing all that analysis, to only output one word, yes or no, which is going to help us to filter those in the next step. And I told it, do not include any other text whatsoever. Don't give any explanations or introductions, because it can get chatty at times, as you probably know if you've used it a lot. We need to give it an overt instruction to only give us yes or no. That's all we need for now. I'm going to save that. I'm going to save the whole thing. So now we've got 4 modules in place and we're almost there. The next step is going to be to set up our Airtable, actually in Airtable itself. And then after that, we can add the final 2 modules, which are Airtable and one for Gmail, to let you know that the contracts are ready. So yeah, let's move on to the next section. Here we are in Airtable, and we are just going to create a new database that we can use to store our government opportunities. So let's click Create and start with the blank app. And we're just going to keep this super simple. Give it a title. There we go. Okay, so first off, we need the ID for the tender. Next up, we need the title of the notice, and that can be a short text. So there we go. Save. Description. We'll make that a long text. Let's call that notice ID. Notice ID, title, description. Then we need organization. Single line text. There we go. After organization, we're going to have status. So that's going to be whether it's open or not. Status, I'll keep that again as single line text. Delete this one. Add a new one here. Let's have published date, and this one will be called published date. And then we're going to add another date, and this will be deadline date. After that, we're going to add the region, so where in the UK the opportunity is. That can be a single line text. Region, the URL, this is important. That's going to come from the variable that we built earlier on. Create field, and then the final one is going to be, is it okay for small businesses? Okay, I think that's everything we need. Let's just check something. Make that a number instead. Okay, this is ready to go. All right, let's just hop back into make.com and let's set up the rest of the workflow. Next up, we need to add an Airtable module. So when ChatGPT has finished processing the tenders and choosing the right ones, we then create a new record to store that tender in Airtable. I've got to find the one I just created, War Dog's YouTube demo, there it is, and table 1. Okay, as you can see, it's bringing up all the record names that we just assigned in Airtable. And what we need to do now is tell make.com what data we want to put in each of these fields. Again, we'll go back to the data that we pulled from the government website via the API. So notice ID will be this. Title will be title. There it is. Description is going to be somewhere here. Description, organization name, status. Yeah, sometimes they're a little all over the place. Notice status, there we go. Publish date, see it here. There we go. And deadline date we should have. There it is. Region, East of England for that one. And now the URL will come from a different module. It's going to be from the set variable module, remember? Because we constructed the URL here. So it's not available in what comes from the API. So we add notice URL there. And then the final thing is it suitable for SME? And here we click this one. And that should be it. Let's make sure we save that. Okay, and then something we have to do after the ChatGPT module before Airtable is that we remember in the OpenAI prompt, we told it that it had to return yes or no if the tender is relevant or not. So we have to do one more step with those to make sure the right ones go into Airtable. And what we're going to do is set up a filter here. We'll call it relevant tender. There we go. The data we want to operate this filter on is the result from the ChatGPT module. We want to know if it is yes or no. So we're going to do case insensitive. If it is yes, and only if it is yes, will it go through to the Airtable. So by adding this, it will get rid of anything that's that the AI has judged as no, as not relevant, and it will only allow the relevant ones through to the next step. So this is like a gateway really to the next step. We have our Airtable now, and then the last thing really we need to do is just set up an email step. I like to use the email module as opposed to the Gmail. I find that the email one has more functionality. So we are going to send a new email, and I'm going to send it to myself. New tenders for review. We'll set the content type as plain text. And we'll just write a simple message. You have new tenders ready for review. Please see this link to view them. Thanks. And then we'll add the link from the Airtable. We are going to share this. Let's just see how best to do this. Turn on access. We just want to create a link that we can use to easily share. So click to copy link. And then we're just going to put that into the email so that we can easily click through and look at the Airtable directly. So that's all for that one. Just save. And yeah, that is ready to go. All right, that's it for today's build. If you'd like to grab the free make template for this automation, you can find the link in the description below. And while you're there, you can also sign up for early access to my upcoming AI automation and visibility community. I'd love to see you inside when we launch. And if you find this tutorial helpful, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.